It's Friday. It's just past 4, and look who it is. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right. Stressed because I can't get my computers to work. I've tried two now to try and get online, and it's not working. So I'm on my phone, so I apologise for the quality.
Actually, I have to say, as far as seeing you very clearly, the picture is excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, good to see you. So, what have you been up to?
Well, we are at the caravan.
Yeah.
We've been doing lots of Rainbow Project stuff. We escaped to the caravan for a few days. So lots of walking and knitting and fighting with Puppy.
Yes.
Who is coming
Absolutely.
into his own. He's
Fabulous.
yeah. He's just bullying his sister at the minute. So.
Hello, puppy. Hello, puppy. Well, excellent. So
How
it's
about
good
you?
to see
What have
you.
you been up to? Busy week. Busy week you've had.
Yes. Started on Sunday with the workshop, and then we moved swiftly on to Monday, where I served Reverend Barbara's church in March. And then on Tuesday, served Prick Willow Church in Cambridgeshire. On Wednesday, Q&A philosophy evening in Bourne in Lincolnshire. I was reaching out further as we go. Then last night back to Littleport, and now back in Chateau Del Nick. And of course, we've had workshops and circles galore during the week, and it's just been
fabulous.
Hectic. So
fabulous.
Nice to get home.
Yes, doing the work of spirit.
Yes, absolutely. And it's been an absolute pleasure meeting so many new faces and wonderful people. And of course, we've got people joining in and saying hello. There are those watching. Of course, please join in. This is your debate, your conversation, your topics, your afternoon. And so, of course, occasionally that's going to happen, and I'll be back on my own again. Here I am, back on my own again. But Reverend Tony will bob back on in just a moment. But let's say some hellos. Of course, hello to Lynn. Here he is.
I was trying to find the comments because I can't see them on here.
Oh no! Of course. Are you sideways?
I wasn't.
There we go. Try side. There we go. So there's Linda. Good afternoon, Mother. Jen Stevenson. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Jen. Welcome. I happen to be able to guess that is the lovely Cherry. That little FR at the end there. That is, I'm guessing that's Cherry. If I'm wrong, I apologise. But I think that might be Cherry. We are joined, of course, by Valerie Sedgley. Welcome. The beautiful Trace Lapworth has bopped online to say hello.
Fabulous.
We have a couple of Facebook users saying hello. If you can guess who you are from your comment, one was with a wave, one wasn't. One was a good afternoon, and one was a hello. We are unable to see your name because of the way StreamYard works. There is instructions on how to connect, but don't worry about that just now. Let us know who you are, and we'll figure it out from there. And when you ask a question and when you make a comment, just pop your name on it, and then we can reference you.
Gail. It's one of them's Gail.
Yeah, one of them's Gail. Hello, Gail. So there you are. Hello. Stuart Tell. Hello to you. We've got a long hello there.
Hello there.
And the other would be Gina. Hello, Gina. Welcome along. Good to see you. The lovely Gina Zibtins. Wonderful medium. And Mum says, love the nails again, Tony, because we got a glimpse when you were ushering the dog. Look at them.
Excuse me, I've just been attacked.
That's fine.
He's lovely.
So, remember everyone, please, this is your show. Lead the debate, lead the conversation,
Yeah.
ask your questions. I've figured out how to star things now so we can come back to things.
Yes, yes, so we can
Just
pick up comments.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So I know that there is something deeply close to your
I
heart that you wanted to kick off with, because conversation going.
yeah, yeah. Um, I of course wanted to send out prayers and thoughts to the situation in Syria and Turkey again, because
Of
it's
course.
just horrendous, horrendous. And the other thing I wanted to mention was people might have seen in the news over the week that a young girl, a young trans girl, was murdered in Manchester Way, and murdered by two teenagers, 15 and 16-year-old, stabbed to death in a park, which is just horrific, horrific. And the the fact she's trans is terrible, but the fact that children are killing other children and knifing other children is just deeply, deeply saddening. And I just wanted to send out prayers and thoughts to the family and the loved ones and anybody who knew her, just
Yes.
to say, just to, knife crime is horrendous at the minute, especially among younger people, and I just wanted to talk about that and explore that, and why people think that might be. And like I said, the fact that this is a young lady and the police are looking at it as a hate crime is deeply, deeply concerning, because we've all seen the news and we've all seen what's happening in terms of the LGBTQ plus community, um, and the rhetoric that's out there, which is very scary, very scary. And just for people to remember that words have consequences. Um, if you say to somebody, "Oh God, what are you doing that for? It's dead gay." To you, it's a phrase. It's just a phrase, but to people around you, that could be offensive and deeply offensive, and it's making the word gay into something negative, which it isn't.
Yeah.
It's fabulous and wonderful and exciting and joyous, and to use words as weapons is cruel beyond belief. To especially since being ordained, funnily enough, you do look at what you say and how you portray things, because you're in a position of responsibility, and that's deeply honoring and a privilege, and whatever else other words I'm looking for, but it's deeply, deeply serious, and people listen to you when you speak, and anybody who is in a position where their words are heard and listened to has a responsibility. Yes, we all have freedom of speech, but words sometimes have consequences, and the consequence for Brianna Gee was she lost her life,
Yes.
and that is tragic. And whether that was because certain people in positions of power have used that position to espouse, I'm going to put it bluntly, hate towards particularly trans women, is for me deeply concerning. And those people should be looking at themselves now and thinking, oh.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm getting a little bit emotional, so I'm going to step off my soapbox and let
Yes.
others talk for a while, because it's tragic,
And
absolutely
it
tragic.
hurts. And
It does.
it's I think it's important that we continue to shine a light on such things. I'm sure many people know that the Independent Spiritualist Alliance was formed purely and simply because we wanted a safe space for all. During the pandemic, there were many trans people that were finding spiritualism, finding a religious home, a
Yep.
spiritual home, a pathway home.
Yep.
And we wanted to do something absolutely about that. Um, and it was a major factor in our decision to do what we have done. And Reverend Ashley Oliver, hello, my lovely, says it quite perfectly. Evening, Revs, and everyone. I was thinking about your LGBTQ plus community, Reverend Tony Swindells medium, and now your spiritual ministry is speaking to that shock and loss. And she also goes on to say, you have already spoken to this so eloquently. Thank you. And I absolutely
Thank you.
agree. You
Thank
know, you mentioned that we all have to look to ourselves and our words about how they can be hurtful, but we can also look to our words and see how they can be helpful. And I
And
think,
healing. You were
uh,
talking about healing last night,
yes,
and
and healing.
words are healing, and that's what we should be looking for. We should be looking to use our words as instruments of healing and cohesion, not otherness. And I have to be honest, I think some within our own community, Nick, need to look at themselves, because a lot of we're dividing. We said the other week we're adding letters rather than bringing
Breaking
together
barriers.
one community, and that needs to be explored and looked at as well. I don't know what the answers are. I really don't, but I know there are solutions, not to the problems that are
Yeah,
out there. And God help us, we will find those solutions. We have to, because one young person losing their life in this tragic manner is one too many. And
yes,
there's been more than one, more than one.
absolutely. And
And
you know what? I have to say, I think Jen has actually hit the nail on the head in many ways. I think some teenagers have no respect for life and they behave without thought for others, be they trans or not, and teenagers can be very cruel. I remember that. And I'm sure you do too. I remember that experience of cruelty and
yeah,
neglect of compassion. I still have scars. I still have physical difficulties physically relating to injuries sustained just simply because of who I was.
mm,
And so,
yeah,
there is absolutely, Jen's right, an element there of inability to care about anything as much as hatred. And those two combined can be deeply, viciously horrendous. And
yeah,
as much as words can cause pain, you're absolutely right. As we said many times, words can heal, and people can heal, and communities can be built when we break down the barriers. And I would love, dearly love, to be able to say we don't need an LGBTQI plus community because we are one community.
yeah, yeah.
And it's not in that position. There's no way we're in that position at
No,
all.
no,
But that should be the pathway. That should be the direction. That should be the
yeah,
thing. You know, maybe it's a generational thing. I'm reminded that as a child, I grew up watching things like, and this is going to sound really, really strange, but bear with me. I grew up watching programs like He-Man.
mm,
And there would be a moral of the story conversation at the end of the episode. The adventure would happen, something would happen, there would be a trigger, a climax, a conclusion, and at the end of it, our TV hero would come running forward and say, "What did we learn this week?" And it gave understanding of different situations.
Yeah.
And only by paralleling these situations with other situations can we start to make inroads and a difference. Ashley says, I agree. Remove the labels and sectionality. Spirituality is intersectional. We need to grasp that. Myself, I'm taking time to continue the process of unbecoming in my own spiritual ministry, stripping away and removing toward the God, goddess to speak. Absolutely. And I tell you what else as well. Going on, I mean, yes, we did speak about healing last night and about building communities where love exists, love grows, where compassion exists, compassion grows, where communities exist, communities grow. But we seem to stall every time when there's a difference of opinion and disagreement. And I think the only way forward, literally, I had no idea what we were going to talk about today, I'll be honest with you. So I felt like I was doing no preparation whatsoever. And Gordon just sat there and said, Tony needs to speak. Tony needs to speak. And, you know, we both have a similar compassion and understanding, but you, in this situation, certainly have a lot more understanding. And my understanding is continuing, please God, to grow and develop.
Mm.
One of the things that I always find hits me the way spirit make an impact is I spoke about, you know, the He-Man moral of the story bit. I was deeply, ironically touched by the fact that you all know I love my sci-fi. I watch my sci-fi all the time. I quote it left, right, and center. And of course, today is the release of the first episode of Picard. Because I am a big Star Trek buff. Now, for those that don't know, yes, they've brought it way up to the 21st century, even though they're in the 25th. But there is a character in there that they've made good use of. 7 of 9, played by the lovely Jerry Ryan.
Yes.
Last season, they built a relationship between her and another female character. Star Trek always was a bit of a letdown for me when it came to equality because it so spoke in advance of social issues in a way that made us think that wasn't necessarily about that exact conversation. With the arrival of Discovery, that began to change, and certainly in Picard, it continued to grow. But they used to do things in a non-obvious way, and although that might sound daft, the non-obvious way was to make people think about similar situations and where it might come. And today's episode, there was this one nugget that really did a great thing that made a parallel for people who didn't necessarily understand the trans community. And certainly those that were sci-fi fans could understand. 7 of 9 was originally born Annika Hansen, a human, but she was converted into a Borg. Right? And there is a reason for this, so bear with me. Humans don't like Borg. There's a lot of problems and a lot of misunderstandings and hatred and whatever. Annika Hansen is a heroic, powerful woman who does compassionate things, kind things, but she had to go through this transition of becoming human again when she was rescued. Thing is this, she took her new name, 7, as in 7 of 9, which was her Borg name. She joined Starfleet, and Picard comes along and introduces her as, this is Commander 7. And she says, hang on a minute. My captain prefers me to go by Annika Hansen. I'm Commander Hansen, not Commander 7. And he deliberately criticized ex-Borgs and all this sort of thing. And when I was watching that, I thought, that sounds familiar to me. And it was dead naming.
Yes.
It was dead naming. And, you know, I thought, what a wonderful way of giving a non-connected parallel.
Yeah.
And if we were to look at ourselves, you know, especially in the spiritualist movement, we all feel at some point reborn and redeveloped and regrown. And to an extent, every single person on this planet goes through some form of change and becomes someone new, be it from youth to childhood, childhood to adolescence, adolescence to adulthood, adulthood to, maturity of an elder age. We all go through these changes and we want to be recognized as the person we are now
Yeah.
because that's who we have become. And what that particular description, albeit on a sci-fi format, showed was anyone who's got a heart and who's a fan of Star Trek will feel really, really bad for Seven. But if they were to witness that in the trans community, would they even acknowledge it? I'd like to think yes.
I
I'd
think
like to
some
think
people would.
yes.
I
But
think
I
some
don't think
people
it'd
would.
be on the same scale.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, if I watched that, I would feel it because I love that character. She's shone a light on so many issues that we in this community and any community where otherness has become an issue, be it
Yes.
by race or gender or anything. But yeah, I would feel it. And to be honest, because of my family and everything else, I would feel it if it happened in the street with somebody else. And I've done it in our group meetings. I've politely corrected people and said, "Oh, sorry, she, not he," and or reverse. But I think for me, it's taking that example again, Nick. The captain is a person in power and a person they look up to. And for somebody in that position to do it must hurt a lot.
Yes.
Because you respect that person and I can think of multiple conversations I've had with people really close to me that have shaken me to the core because I think, wow, where is that coming from? It
Yeah.
I never thought you would hold views like that, because if you can see that particular person as other, outside, different, strange, not welcome, where does that stop? Where does that
Yes.
that bleeds into lots of other situations and things, and makes me question, in certain situations, would you have my back?
Yes.
Would you have our son's back or Michael's back or
Yeah.
whoever? And I just wanted to say that with my other hat on as co-chair of the Rainbow Project, we have a really strong relationship with Nick. And that was born out of me speaking to a lovely trans girl who no longer comes to group, which is fabulous because that's what we aim for them not to need us.
Yeah.
She checks in every now and again and things, but she's out there and she's doing it now and living her best life. But she said, I've watched your lives and I feel so welcome because I never felt I could have a relationship with God and Christ because of who I am. And I said, absolutely not. Your relationship with God is your relationship with God. He loves you. He cherishes you. He's nurtured you. He's been with you through all of these struggles. And he will be there when you need him.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not, he will. And it got me thinking, and I thought, actually, I think I need Nick to come on and do a live with us to have a talk, because I think many people in our community need to hear you are loved and you are welcome no matter what.
Yes.
And obviously, I need to keep this separate from the Rainbow Project. So the the best person for the job, I would be second best, would be Reverend Nick. So we've had many wonderful conversations on live.
Yeah, and I have to say, I really enjoy coming on. I to the extent that I feel part of the family. I had
Yeah.
some lovely comments when we decided to go our own separate ways. From our former life,
Mm.
our other transition. And it is really important to make all feel welcome. For those that are just joining, hello Joe, hello Liz.
Yeah,
The subject
there's a really good comment there as well
from
from a Facebook user.
yes.
Two actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God wants you to be happy and accept yourself as you are, and God will accept no matter who you are. Totally agree. And
Yeah.
this one as well, which I know you would have noticed. I'll be honest, I
Yeah.
only use a label for form filling. As to what or who I am doesn't need a label. Absolutely yes.
Bravo.
Absolutely yes.
Bravo.
So the subject is for Liz to help Liz catch up. We're talking about Brianna Gay. We're talking about dead naming. We're talking about abuse of people on people, which I think really is the sum of it, and certainly that
It is. It
that
is.
seeming ability for young people to be able to hate so much and be angry, and is it an anger that's boiling away, and are they mimicking what they are seeing? Is it something under, like Tony said, I don't know the answer. I just know that there is a path away from it, and we have to work on that by shining a light on the subject, by talking about these subjects, by explaining the difficulties and the darknesses. And you know what, I think that really brings me to Shelley. Hello Shelley, my lovely. Kids don't realize the damage that they can cause with their words. My son is the most loving, kindest boy I know, but some things he says about who people are worries me. I tell him, but he says I'm only joking. He really doesn't mean harm, but doesn't realize the harm it can cause. And if he said some of these things to someone, however, he was watching church last night with Shelley, and he loved it. And we need to chip away at the hate.
Mm.
um Liz,
Yeah.
yeah, says it
Yeah.
all.
It does. It does. And that attitude is ingrained in some ideology, and a lot of members of a church, whether ordained or not, stick by that the them's is the rules,
Yeah.
and we can't change that. Well, actually, yeah, we can.
Yes.
uh, we develop and grow as human beings, and we we should be able to put differences aside. And Nick and I don't agree on everything, Michael and I don't
No.
agree on everything,
No.
but we're big enough to say, okay,
Yeah,
that's
we respect each other's position. We
how.
respect each other's understanding.
However, within any relationship, whether it's a loving relationship, a work relationship, friendship, whatever it is, there are limits to
Of course.
how much compromise you can do. And there must come a point where you say, for my own peace of mind and my own moral center, it's time to put things to bed. Um,
Yeah.
and that's a difficult thing to do at times. But I think what we need are more things like, there's a group we met when we were doing something up north for the company Ben works for, our son, and they go into schools, and they they are role models in schools. And I think to go into a school and to tell stories, or to go into any situation and tell your story, tell your lived experience is important. You humanize, you put a face to, and if you can stand there and say to somebody, I went to school and I was called this and this was said to me, and this is the effect it had on me, and here I am 40 years later, and it still hurts when I think about it.
Yes,
It still hurts.
of course it does.
That's powerful, no matter what it is. I mean, I've heard people talking about them immigrants in hotels and what are we going to do with them, and you think, they are people.
Mm.
They have fled goodness knows what. Yes, there are those that are playing the system, but that must be a tiny minority, absolutely tiny minority. And this is another situation where it's, oh, it's them over there, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not, but not in my back garden. You know,
Mm.
it's fine for them to be somewhere, but not in my back garden. And that's where these things start. And it's just, it's sad. It's desperately, desperately sad.
Yeah, it is.
And
And Liz, yes, I figured, and I'm sure most people did figure it was a root chakra. And you know what? I've just got to say, Liz, because I know you've seen a bit of us. I know we've started. I do like the idea of a toot chakra. Actually, maybe that's the one above the
yes,
head where
that'd be
we
good.
the angelic horns. I like that. But you know what, Liz, you probably don't know us very well yet. I know you've probably seen us work because I know your other username. We've been talking this week. I have to say, this is a safe space for everyone, for every level of conversation. I know you're going to be joining the circles as well. They are safe spaces, and no one will ever be tolerated to speak to anyone like that. At the end of the day, even if you bring it right back down to the core that we are spiritualists, we all get a load of crap. Let's be honest. We are called nutcakes, fruit jobs, idiots, silly people, blind, devil worshipping, deceived. How can anyone who's gone through that tolerate seeing the same behavior on any subject? I mean, you mentioned on the immigration, and yes, there has been some incidents in the last week relating to that. It wasn't the immigrants that destroyed. It wasn't the immigrants that destroyed, property.
Police
It was,
cars, yeah.
and it actually wasn't the original protesters.
No,
That's important to emphasize. It was
they were
people who
busted.
came along to hijack everything. And
Yeah,
that is where the problem is.
yeah,
Absolute hijacking of people's right to an opinion,
yeah.
in my view.
It,
Everyone's
it
got a
is.
right to an opinion. But when
Oh,
that opinion and that right takes you to a level where you think you can cause harm, destruction, chaos, and pain, exactly what this wonderful individual here has said. Can't everyone just see another human in front of them instead of trying to put people in holes? Jean goes on to say, I love my little brothers, Tony
yeah.
and Michael. I've adopted them as family 10 years ago and wouldn't change them.
Thank you, darling.
Joanne, gotta, absolutely, gotta go on with it. Where's my invite to the family, woman? Aren't I the grumpy, cranky old uncle that sits and gets drunk in the corner or something? Um, it seems that the lesson on judgment needs to be learned, and these souls who have had the hatred haven't learnt that lesson yet. We have to raise our vibrations to deal with it. As a black woman, we have a lot to deal with also. So raising my vibration is a given. Absolutely, Joe. Cannot add any more to that. That is
No,
absolutely yes.
no.
I love animals so much. Have lots to teach us humans. They don't purposely go around hating on each other. here. So when we talk, well, apart from Tony's dog, who's really quite grumpy at the moment, as we can all hear, but
He is.
he's still not savaging Tony to pieces just for having an opinion. You're absolutely right. We talk about the animalistic nature of humanity as sometimes, and I've done it myself, as an excuse for our bad behavior. It's not true, though. It's not true, because animals show compassion and kindness. So a very valid point. I'm what some would call normal. Difficult to put in chat, but I've also been bullied just on my different views. As we said before, we are all people. It's taken me a long time to understand myself, though through my family with family upbringing, racist grandparents who were coloured South Africans. I get it now, though. Still have always got to go completely understand everything, but I get it a lot more. And this is it. This is progress and development.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing your story. And it baffles how people judge. Absolutely. Another new face coming along the line. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can't see who you are. But you are still more than welcome, because we're talking
Absolutely.
about labels. Who cares about labels? You have a voice and you're using it, and we love you.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to have some suffering in order to understand true happiness. Yeah, there is that element. We
Yeah.
need to know darkness to see the light. But when we enter the world, the first thing we see is light. Yes, we instantly cry because it's probably not as bright as the light we had in the spirit world. But let's be honest with you. I sometimes think that we are too judgmental, and on the flip side, I think we can be too non-judgmental, in the sense that we will often try and find excuses where there is no reason.
Yeah.
Yes, there's always going to be a reason for something, and I get that. And that reason is what must be worked on. That reason must be developed. That reason must be grown through. And I get and understand that. But sometimes tolerance can be a negative thing, because we tolerate bad things as much as we learn to tolerate things that we don't understand or like.
Yeah.
We talk in this way of life, and in many ways of life, there is this phrase balance. And I think it's sometimes difficult to find that balance. I like I've always said, I don't have the answers, I don't have all of the solutions, but I do think that we need to find that balance. You mentioned earlier that there is a limit to what you can turn around and say, well, live and let live. There has to be, and I totally agree. And I think that is the thing. There's
Yeah.
always going to be borders when people disagree. There's
There
always
are.
going to be borders when people disagree.
There are.
But it's how you handle those borders.
Yes. Yes. And it's fine to say let's agree to disagree, but again, there is a limit to that. That we know ourselves, Nick. There is a point where you've got to say that's enough. You either give a little, like we said, we always say it. We will fight to the death for your right to have an opinion and
Yeah.
to speak your opinion, but be prepared for the consequences and the fallout. But if that means some young person losing their life, that's
Yeah.
a high price to pay. That's
Dude,
too.
any life is too high a price to pay. Completely.
And the other point is, I completely agree when you were talking earlier about how we have to look at that point of oh well, it's just them, how they are, and tolerating that behavior. Oh, it's Uncle Fred, you know what he's like. Maybe it is Uncle Fred. However,
Uncle
sometimes
Fred needs to pull his big boy pants on and grow up a bit sometimes, you know.
Yeah. And you know, there was, I was just
Yeah.
going to say there was a comment about somebody belittling somebody because of how they dress, and no, absolutely not. That's not okay on any level, you know.
And that is why I waited until we got the follow-up there, because I did not tolerate that hateful post. I protested and decided to unfriend. You removed yourself from the difficulty,
Yeah.
removed yourself from the hatred. And you
Yeah.
know what? This is what we, you know, and take it a level, nearly got killed for looking goth. You know, my niece used to dress as a goth. You know, and the thought that she would have suffered and endured that kind of attitude and behaviour sends shivers down my spine.
Yeah.
And
There,
anyone who suffers sends shivers down my spine.
there was
You
a
know,
young lady murdered for being goth.
yes,
I can't remember if it was London or Manchester, but I
I think
remember
so.
reading about her years and years ago. But it that's the thing. Can't we see a pattern here where it was the mods, it was the rockers, it was the punks, it was human nature seems to say we must
Totally.
find a group. We must find a group, and that's
Separate them out and make them the
yeah,
other.
and that's what's happening now, and it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
It really is sad. Um, and I think it resonates so much because we've had that journey.
Yes.
We we
We really have. Yeah.
we've walked that walk, and we know what's out there. I'm going to say, and I just heard Michael talking about it earlier to somebody who rang from on the Rainbow Project phone about our son came out as lesbian. Well, didn't actually. We said when they brought their friend to stay with us for a few days, and we were like, when they'd gone, we just messaged, was that us meeting the in-laws then? Well, yeah, but you knew. We're like, yeah, we knew. But then when they came out as a trans man, Michael and I had that oh poop moment. Not
Yeah.
because he was trans, not a problem. We know what's out there. We
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. We know the battles in employment, the battles at changing rooms. And luckily, and I hate the phrase, Ben passes really well.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is, no matter what, you should just be able to live your best life and be your best self and kick butt. But to jump on people for whatever reason is just not the way to go. It's not human.
Yeah.
It's certainly not Christian, and it's certainly
Yeah.
not a spiritual way of dealing with things.
Correct.
And when you read some people's posts who are in our community, the spiritual community, and are high up in some churches and things, you think, what can't you see the dichotomy in what you're saying there? You know,
Yeah.
that your spiritual side is saying eternal progress of the human soul. Your voice is saying, "Oh, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. That's disgusting."
Yeah.
Come on, people, make your minds up. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not just coming from the spiritual side; it's coming from politics and press and media. And to be honest, it's exhausting. But our aim as spiritualists is you be the best version of you can possibly be, no matter what that is.
Yes.
And we will help you do that. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, go for it.
Yeah.
And as the Rainbow
And
Project, our aim is not to exist, not to be needed. But I can't
yeah.
see that, unfortunately. So I'm just catching up
And
with comments. I've got to
yeah.
switch.
It's fine because a Facebook user, whichever one you are, I love you. If you if your alternative can lead to hatred due to lack of understanding, and correct. And this is the thing. It is all about knowledge. It's about education. It's about learning. It's about simply understanding. I keep going back to this phrase every single time, whatever we talk about. Just be nice, to be kind. If what you are thinking and feeling does not lead you down a path of kindness, question it. And you know what? Once again, I've got to say it. Sometimes we can be too allowing and forgiving of ignorance. We do have to stand firm against it. I am reminded of a wonderful um, homily, sermon, address, whatever you want to call it, that I heard once. Um, and the minister, he stood there and he said, "Every day we hear more and more about the enemy, but what is the enemy? Is it the person from another country? Is it the person with another skin color? Is it the person who thinks differently to us? No, my friends, this is not the case. The enemy is fear. The enemy is hate. The enemy is the one who believes that they can get away with saying that the one who is different to you is wrong. Because only by accepting love and compassion and kindness and realizing that we are all different and alien to each other can we move forward in peace, in truth, in justice, in kindness, in love, and accepting of each other. And yes, Liz, the enemy is fear. Quite right too. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, because I had my eyes closed because I was trying to give the exact words and do it some
Mm.
justice.
Mm.
Oddly enough, I'm going to be honest here. That minister was not a real minister. That was on a TV show.
Was it?
Yeah, Babylon 5.
Oh, I thought it might be.
Always comes back to some tidbits from Babylon 5.
Babylon
But
5. I love
it
it.
so fits
It does.
with
And it doesn't matter who
everything.
said it. It's
No,
the
no.
message of truth. And let's face it, that's what Joseph, Joshua Carpenter said.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that was his message. The enemy is fear. The enemy is that fear of otherness.
Yeah.
Just love each other as I have loved you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, wise words.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wise words.
And just to underline, I spent most of my teenage years watching that show. It did shape me growing up. Um Bit of both, Liz. Bit of both.
Bit of both. Yeah.
Um, Says I got that from me and or Spirit, pick one. Bit of both. Bit of both. We are all the living spirit. None of this physical stuff, none of what we feel about this physical stuff even matters because it's what's inside the memories, the personality, the spirit, the
I,
soul, the consciousness that matters.
there is a wise man in the bedroom through there. Oi, 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 enough. Who said, all this is just a meat suit.
Yeah, me. Yeah, I love that. I love. Yeah.
It's a meat
Um,
suit. You know.
Joe, once again, I'm going to give you some wood and some nails, and you can make me a furniture because you keep hitting the nail on the head. We were all born on Earth, so we all have the right to live here, whatever way we choose to live. There should be a law that protects individuality. Yeah, there should, and
Mm,
we keep trying. We
we
keep
do.
trying. We keep
We
trying.
do. Um, and God help me, as long as I've got breath in my body, I will keep banging the drum and saying, "What are we doing?" You know.
Yeah.
Um, there's a comment. Hang on, where is it? Yeah, I love that, Shelley.
Yeah, and you do not apologise.
But the thing is, um, Jean, if she's still watching, will recognise this. Um, we all get things wrong. we all are on a journey, and if someone gets something wrong out of complete error or lack of knowledge, but learns and adapts and grows, that's fine. But what you'll find is people do it or make that mistake again and again and again deliberately because they know it rankles the person that they're doing it to.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. That's
Yeah.
wrong, especially when it's a name they no longer recognise as their own, or a gender they
Yes.
no longer recognise as their own, or because they're in a country that they don't know very well, or can't speak the language very well, or that's when it's wrong. When you're doing it deliberately to cause hurt, that's where
Yeah.
it's wrong, and
And
that's
so
where
there, yeah. And
that's
so there,
out.
yeah, exactly. And you know what, Shelley? I'm going to read this out. You have nothing to apologize for because you are making an effort. You are
Absolutely.
making an effort. You've no reason to apologize because you are on a learning journey.
Yeah.
So, there is nothing to apologize for. Uh, you've said, I nearly just stopped watching. Glad I apologized and you accepted it. You've got no reason to
We
apologize and
haven't
there's nothing to
accepted it.
accept
We
because
didn't.
you've got
No.
nothing to apologize for.
No. No.
This is the dichotomy of everything that matters. You have realized that you have a gap in your knowledge and understanding, and you want to do something about it. That means that you have got nothing to apologize for,
No.
ever.
No. Um. And we see it so often in both walks of life for me that people question, well, how can you be ordained as a minister if you're gay?
Get that one,
Um,
plenty, love.
well, because God loves me and I love God. Thank you very much. Um, or, well, you can't be a spiritualist and a Christian because the Bible says. The Bible was written thousands of years after the event it's talking about, dear, and it's translated from translations of translations. So, that's not
And
why.
whenever anyone throws that one at me, I just simply say, look at the Garden of Gethsemane. I'm pretty sure that Elijah and Moses had been dead about 1,000 years before Jesus was talking to them there. And this is the thing, right. This is interesting, and I know it's going to go over some old ground, but I posed a question, and Shelley, who's watching, Liz, you'll get stuff like this coming through to you over weekends and stuff. And I know several of my wonderful, wonderful circle members are watching. I know Cherry was watching. I know Jen's been, listening in. I posed a question, and it was really no. Your skin color and your sexuality matter not to any of us because
No.
that's what we're trying to do. I
And
get it,
I get what you're saying,
but
but
you
it
do
sounds
not
like we're
take,
bashing.
yeah,
We're
you
bashing
do
people. Well,
not
not.
take collective responsibility for your skin color. You do not take collective responsibility for people who feel the same way as you are. It might be hard, but that just shows that you are a compassionate person.
Yeah. And on the flip side, Shelley, as I was growing up watching TV, there was nobody on TV that was like me. Or
Yeah.
if they were caricatures and grotesques of me. What what we're doing is trying to say to people, open your eyes and your hearts and just be aware of what's happening in the world. We all have responsibility, whether we are straight, white, cis, trans, gay, whatever, spiritualists, non-spiritualists. We all have collective responsibility for what's happening in the world. And without conversation and debate, nothing's going to change. I can't
Oh, hello. He's just clicked a button again, so I'll just jump in here for a moment. Just before I come to Jen's comment, actually, Shelley, you just feel that you're taking the blame for all haters. You're a kind and loving person, and I'm going to just. We're not the only ones saying it. There you go. Um, you're taking on board that hatred because you care and you're compassionate. So, you are getting through a really, really difficult conversation, and there you go. And you do not need to. And the point is this, Shelley, I've got to say it.
Sorry
If you
again.
feel like you're fine, if you feel that way, for me, that shows that you are a compassionate person. It shows that you are a lovely person, and it shows that you are exactly right the person that you need to be. So never feel that it's taking it on board. You are experiencing what is known in the trade as empathy.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a hard debate and it is a hard conversation, and I know it's a difficult one, but it goes back to Jen. Apparently, all teenagers are biologically incapable of empathy for others. The bullying I experienced, and I am not LGBT, left me with mental scars, but there were no weapons used, thank goodness. Forgot to click the send button before. Also, do you think that the media and various pressure groups inflame the differences and encourage violence?
Absolutely.
Here. Absolutely, yes. I really, really do.
Can I just make a controversial thing here? Statement. If you
Really?
watch any YouTube broadcasts by the Council of Geeks, they cover a lot of Doctor Who stuff and things, and wonderful trans lady that runs it, and she has a disclaimer at the beginning of all of her programs about Doctor Who, saying about the fact that they had a woman on who was espousing trans genocide and they've not apologized. They've removed some of the articles because one of the women that contributed to the conversation, that it was Woman's Hour or something they were on, was found out to have sexually assaulted another woman while she was in prison. So her comments were removed, but the other lady's comments, who espoused that trans people should be eradicated by various means, her comments are still there. And so, yes, I absolutely think media has a lot to answer for in this debate. Absolutely do. And pressure groups. And like I said at the beginning of the conversation, people in positions of power who are using that power to inflame this hatred towards people. And it's not necessarily white people, as was it Shelley was saying, or necessarily straight people. There are people in our community as LGBTQ who are saying these things,
Big style.
which is awful, absolutely dreadful, that someone who can have gone through stuff we've gone through can then say, but this group of people deserve to suffer the same as we did. It's beyond belief for me.
Yeah.
But sorry, that was my 2 pennies.
No, absolutely. And Liz has just said, I believe the hate on difference is purposely pushed. Absolutely, yeah. Completely sum it up. Shelley, it's just hard on chat, that's all, but I love you both. So, you know what? You have said nothing that has offended any of us or anyone, and the love that's coming to you from the chat, and I've shared a couple of them just in case you're on a different stream, because I know that Facebook has got 3 or 4 different channels feeding into us. The love for you here is what it should be. We're spiritualists at the end of the day.
And
I just want to touch.
Sorry, go on.
I just want to touch on Liz. I'm curious as to, and I'm really, really looking forward to answering this one. I'm curious how you would feel about my relationship, though. got a lot of hate and fuss over that. I could tell you in private, and I'm sure you will. But let me tell you something. It's none of my beeswax.
No,
It's
absolutely
none
not.
of my buggering beeswax. And
No.
you know what you do to make you feel happy and in your relationship. You know, I got to tell. She is a sweetie. She is a sweetie, Shelley. And you know what? She finds this kind of conversation. I'm sure she won't mind. She finds this kind of conversation difficult. She was concerned for me when I came out, not because she was worried about me being gay. She was worried about the way I would be treated, whether I would be on my own, you know. But compassion of everyone
Mm,
works, and compassion brings everyone together. And you know, it's really, 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 really important to just be nice to each other, as everyone has said.
that's all it comes down to.
Yeah, you know, I look forward to the conversation, Liz. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you and getting to know you.
But
Um,
we have people of all relationships and sexualities and
Now I've got to say, I do sometimes slip on my words. I do sometimes throw in a boob. And I often throw in double entendres, not necessarily when realizing it. And just to lighten the mood, I'm going to tell you a little story. Tony and I have a mutual friend who we were talking to a number of
okay.
months back. Um, and that they mentioned that they had just started in, I believe it's polyamorous
Yeah,
relationship.
a polyamorous
So
relationship.
I'm getting the words down now. You know, I might be old, but I can
See,
still learn a few things.
even Nick's learning.
Nick is learning, you know. And he turned round to me. He says, I don't know what you'd think about that." And I just, she said, he says, "People don't know where to put that, and people don't know how to work with that." And I just turned round without even thinking and said, "Well, I could think of a few things." Um, and it just broke the moment into some
Yeah,
silliness and laughter.
yeah,
And we mentioned this last night, for anyone who was watching. Laughter, you know, if you can laugh about it, if you can
yeah,
let go of that pain with a giggle, with a joke, with a silly comment here and there, it really does help, and it really does heal. And the dog's just disconnected Tony again. Um, Hello, Nicola, my namesake, my lovely. Hello. I was the same with both my sister and youngest child. I wasn't worried about their transition. I was worried about how the world would treat them, because it's a scary world. Um, and I will never let. I know you won't, Mum. And you know, it's great to watch everyone on here supporting each other through what is a difficult conversation. And there he is again. You
yeah.
know,
I am sorry. That was the puppy. He turned round and he pressed leave with his
I
nose
I guess that much. I guess that
because
much. Do you know what?
he's got
It's
tired.
funny, really, because today you've been up and down like a pair of drawers. Um,
I have, and I do apologise that it has been a deeply arduous conversation and debate, but it just felt necessary and needed because
yeah,
I just couldn't get the fact that this young girl has lost her life. And initially, the police said, "Oh, we couldn't find any hate motive for it." Well, hang on, two teenagers have stabbed another teenager to death in a park. Something's going on. And then they said, "Oh, yeah, well, after interviewing, perhaps we are looking at it as a hate crime." You know,
yeah,
and I just felt it's important, not just as an LGBTQ conversation, but as a conversation in general, that
yeah.
respect and kindness cost nothing,
Yeah,
but mean so much.
it does.
And
It really, really does.
I think the most important thing we can say, or I can say, to sort of start wrapping the seriousness up a little bit, is just the most important thing you can say to somebody, no matter what the conversation you're having with them is, "I am here for you and I hear you."
Yeah,
listening is fine, but hearing what that person's really saying is what's important. And those are the things we should be doing. We should be there for people and hear them.
Yeah.
That
Spread love, not hate. Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
yeah,
And you know what? I get that it might have been a difficult conversation, and Shelley, I have to say thank you for shining a light on that,
yeah,
because that's important.
it
But
is.
if you want to, here's my lovely cherry. Acceptance of everyone, absolutely yes. Um, if you need to bring light into darkness, you shine the light on the dark spots
Mm,
so that you can bring it out into the open. You can bring it out into the light. Um,
yeah,
it is kind of a tie over, and it is talking about knowledge and understanding, just to bring a bit of a giggle. And for those that are on here from Circle, you know where I'm going with this. I'm going to ask Reverend Tony a question. I'm
go
going
on
to
then.
pose Tony a question. Did the God of the Christian Bible have a wife?
Hmm. Would oh, that's a difficult one. I
Is
don't.
it?
I don't know.
Lovely. Right. So this is the thing. We all know so much about Yahweh and Jehovah,
Yeah,
however you want to pronounce that little nugget. Um, you are absolutely right, Shelley. Your wagon did turn pink. Perfect. Love it. Meditation. Um, we have to look back at the root of everything as
yes,
we develop and grow. Why is this like this? Why is this like that? So I posed in preparation for a workshop, I posed the circle this same question. And there were a lot of brilliant answers, some of them funny, some of them serious, some of them really, really deep. I have to admit, my favourite is still Trace's comment. Why would she need one? It's just brilliant. But
I
in
love
order
that.
to understand things, we need to go back on things and realize that everything in culture has a history and a root. So
Mm,
if we look at the Christian tradition, Yahweh, Jehovah, also known as Elohim, El, if you were to go back and realize that the whole first bit where that individual is named is the Judaic tradition. It is the Jewish Bible, not the
yeah,
Christian Bible.
yeah,
So, we're now saying that the Christian, hey, Trace, we're now saying that the Christian tradition has the same God as the Jewish tradition. And the fact that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are all Abrahamic
yes,
religions,
yes. They are.
all three have the same God.
Yes.
So we're going along here. So let's go back to what Abraham, and I say the same thing. I say it all the time. I've started adding a little bit more these days, actually. But last night I had a very, very, very strange experience where I just let my guide take over for the final prayer, and I said some very different things to what I normally would. And yeah, but I always say, Mother, Father, God, to just try my best to represent the Great Spirit. Because we all know that all of these descriptions of the 4,000 or so gods on the earth that we have at the moment are all a way of trying to interpret that being, or at least
Mm,
I think most spiritualists feel that way. But
yeah.
if we take the God of the Christian Bible, we've already identified that that's now the same God over three religions. Which demonstrates that people disagree about how to talk about things, how to do things, and how to move forward. See where I'm going with this.
Mm,
But Abraham wasn't Judaic in practice. Abraham was estimated to be around about 2,300 BCE. Um, the events of Moses was around about 1300 BCE. So what religion was Abraham? And this is where it gets interesting, because Abraham was part of the Canaanite tradition.
Yes.
And the Canaanite religion, here's that P word again, was polytheistic.
Oh, yeah.
And the head of the Elohim, the collective name of gods for Canaanite, was El.
Yes.
And El was married to Asherah.
Yes. So God did have a wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, when we track back, and of course, Canaanite religions, yes,
Thank you.
Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne. That's been my point forever.
Oh, yes. Love
Yes.
it, love it, love it. Yeah, absolutely. Jesus was Jewish. Some people actually say that he was Gnostic, but that causes a whole other can of worms. But what does it matter putting a labels again? Labels.
There we are. There we are.
And this is the thing, all the way through that, it's all been about labels. It's all been about identity and ownership of identity. And this is where the problem lies. We use the phrase Mother, Father, God to be inclusive. Some people struggle with that. I'm working with someone at the moment who won't say Mother, Father, God because it doesn't sit right with them. So I just turned around and said, change it to whatever sits with you.
Yeah.
Because it's the same location that it's going to. It's the same source. It might be barbecue, it might be, peri peri, but it's still sauce. I know. Hello, Wendy. Peri peri. Peri peri. But this is the thing. It's all about the same location. It's all about the same source. It's just how we recognize and identify it. Because as spiritualists, we all know that particular being has no form and has no substance of physical nature.
No.
It's energy. And energy doesn't recognize borders. Energy doesn't recognize identities in the way that we do. We are limited and physical, so we need those in some way. But in order to progress and develop and grow, we need to lose that need for physical explanation. And I sometimes think that's where faith comes in a little bit. I always reminded of the phrase, faith and reason, faith and logic, science and religion are like the shoes on your feet. You can travel further with both than you can just one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the important thing to recognize, that people will take ownership, and people will have been deeply offended by me saying that the God of the Christian Bible isn't just Christian. But you can't argue with the facts.
No.
That you can trace the lineage of that being back through the work that it did on Earth, trying to progress and develop us and update us each time.
Yeah.
We don't always get it right, and we don't understand things all the time, which is why we have to consistently keep updating our knowledge bank and updating our process. But that's, the point of linking into spirit and connecting with spirit, and finding out the answers for yourself so that you can understand it from your own perspective. Because what I might explain in one might make sense to two people, but might make no sense at all to four more. The divine and ever-loving spirit is a male and female energy. Absolutely. And we've tried to explain this in other religions before. You've only got to look at the oh god, mine's gone blank now. Yin and yang. Thank you.
Oh yes.
And I try and, everything I do, I try and demonstrate some kind of interconnectivity. You've only got to look at the logo of the ISA. I've got a photoreal version on the wall behind me, but the logo in the top right hand corner, it's a Zen circle, someone sitting in the lotus position, which covers quite a few different religions. The angel wings covering, what ties in with the way we feel about it, spirituality and Christianity.
Yeah.
The whole point of the logo is to demonstrate that there are different aspects that all make up the whole.
Yeah.
And we are, each human being on this planet now and has ever been and always will be, we are all uniquely, individually, separately, and unitedly a unique part of that great whole. And the tapestry of life is a wonderful web of weaving, but it can also lead to snags from time to time. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, we are all threads of that great, wonderful tapestry, and we all equally make up that tapestry because, a piece of thread is just a piece of thread. They all have to blend and mingle, entwine, and find the right place for that tapestry to be created. That is who we are. That is what we're doing in this life. And so the growth and development of humanity requires that we try our best and nothing more.
Yeah. Just be the best version of you can be, and do your best to do good in your life.
Yeah.
And like Nick said earlier, if your thoughts and actions aren't leading to good, then question them.
Yeah.
But also, if somebody around you is doing things that is harming others or leading to distress of others, call them out.
Because you know what?
Out.
The sad and simple truth is anyone who is decent, and I still believe that is the vast majority of the world, will
Oh,
not
absolutely.
realize what they're doing and just need you to shine a light on their dark
Into the
spot.
darkness. Yeah. Yeah. Be the usherette in the old fashioned cinemas, shining your torch onto the steps so that people don't trip.
Absolutely. And if anyone is in the queue behind me, mine's a choc ice and some popcorn, please.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A Magnum
Ooh,
almond. Oh
lovely.
yeah.
Lovely. Well, we are fast approaching 5:30, so
Ouch.
it is nearly time to say goodnight. For every road must end. I
Yes,
believe there's a hymn like that.
there is.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. It's nice to see so much again interaction and engagement. Thank you for the honesty. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the directions. Thank you for being you.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think this is actually a wonderful way to start to wrap things up. Don't apologize for it being late. We are all unique and we all possess a bit of the unique God force within us all. It doesn't matter what our belief is, it is what we do to promote good, the right thing, and to shine the light wherever it is needed. Why does it always take a national disaster to bring people together? It is because we all had something else to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's been a tough one, but
It has.
you do not solve the world's ails. You do not cure what ails the. Yeah, it is ails. Yeah, you do not
Yeah.
cure what ails the world without touching on the tender spots.
No.
Thank you, each and every one of you, for being part of this. Thank you all for being there, for continuing to support, yeah, absolutely, I look forward to that too.
Mm.
Um, so from me, God bless you all.
God bless you all. Thank you so much.
And don't forget, you can continue the debate on. My teeth are starting to fall out now. You can continue the debate or start a new one, ready for next week's show.
Yes, please.
on
Me too.
facebook.com/groups/2 Revs, where you can find Continue the Debate, and a record of every single episode that we've done up to date as well.
Yes.
Reverend Tony, a pleasure as always. Thank you so
And
much.
you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Good night. God bless.
Good night. God bless. Be safe. Be wonderful. And one last fleeting glimpse of that cherub-like face before we go. There we are. Good night. God bless. May the peace of the Great Spirit go with you all. And until next week, keep safe, keep talking, and keep shining a light on the world. And as the saying goes, and as my badge says from Esther, just be kind. God bless. Good night. And see you soon.